Hey, I didn't miss it this time. It said you are live and I was paying attention. Kudos to me. It is Wednesday, November 10th, 2021, and this is Women in Business. And I'm really happy to have you all here with us today. My guest is Lauren Owens from Armadillo Blanks and Armadillo Custom Tees. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about her. They offer custom laser cutting and engraving, sublimation, vinyl, and embroidery services. She is the mother of 2 teens, a dog and a cat, and a wife. She started in apparel like most with a Cricut, which I always want to say Cricut, I don't know why, making shirts for her kids. She was later introduced to sublimation by a friend 5 years ago and slipped down the rabbit hole of garment decoration, a rabbit hole that many of us are familiar with. She is currently working on a monthly vlog on garment decoration methods on her Facebook page, Sublimation After Dark, where she shares tips and tricks and showcases her products and designs. She is on a mission to educate others on the many opportunities to use their gifts and to dispel the myth of starving artists. And I love that. And I'm going to turn off this really annoying thing that's on the corner of my screen here. And then I will pop in Lauren. Yay, Lauren. Hi.
Hi.
So excited you're here. And I have to say, that the first thing that I want to talk about is the myth of the starving artist, because I'm a writer.
Yes.
When I was a kid and I said, I want to be a writer, the thing that I heard most often was, writers don't make any money. You're going to starve.
Yes.
And I was like, well, some writers make money because there's a lot of people who do it.
Right. There's a lot of people that write.
Yeah.
I like you, same thing. I was the AP art kid and I got told by, family members and by others that like, well, what are you going to do with that? How are you going to make money and feed yourself with that? And I unfortunately got derailed and just went into, I'm going to do, mental health, and went to school for that and just kind of put my artistic gifts to the side. And now, like, I came back to it after I've had my kids and everything, and like I said in my bio, it was on accident. This was supposed to be my hobby, and wow, we fell super hard down that hole. And now it's a thriving business. And if I always say, like, I wish that I knew now. Like, I wish I knew then what I know now, and how many careers and how many opportunities are out there that we don't even think about. Like, we don't think about that, writers, how many opportunities are out there for you to use your writing gift. Whether that is ghostwriting for someone, whether it's writing your own book. Like, we just think of like the top tier, what you normally see out there. We never think about our artistic gifts being used in other platforms, in the behind the scenes work, and how much of that really is artistic. And now with technology and with the way that the internet and social media and everything, the limits are just, there are no limits anymore. Like, we make our own opportunities now. And I think that is a message that needs to be sent out more often, to kids in high school, so that they know that they have those opportunities, and they don't have to just put their gifts to the side and just take a desk job or something.
Well, and I think, like, I wrote my first story when I was 6. I've written forever, but I was director of marketing for 14 years. What do marketers do? They write.
They write, and they produce artwork, and there's so many other things. But when you think of marketing, when I thought of marketing when I was younger, it was somebody who was good at like negotiations and presentations and good at math and numbers and everything, so that they could read the analysis, and then they could come up with, other ads that were similar to get the similar results. I never really thought about it as like, all the artwork and all the design features and things like that go into it.
Well, and I don't get, the other thing I don't get either is why people discourage kids who say, I want to be an artist of some kind. I want to be a painter. I want to be a dancer. I want to be a sculptor, whatever it is. And the response always seems to be, oh, well, You'll never make any money doing that. You need to be practical. Or you need to get, my other favorite piece of advice is you need to get a backup. What's your backup? Like get
the
a
backup
teaching degree or something so you'll have a backup.
That's okay. So half of my family are entrepreneurs and half of my family are teachers. So teaching was always like, well, just be a teacher. And then and then the other half was like, well, the world always needs ditch diggers. So that, but we're from the South, so that's, yeah. Anyways, but that's what I was told. And that's just what, and we go off of what our parents were telling. It's just that in this generation that we stop that stigma and we let these kids be creative and we let these kids like live up to their highest potential, and not have to put their gifts on the shelf to just take a job.
Well, and I think part of what people in our generation, and I'm sure you're younger than me, but people who are doing the stuff that we're doing and being visible we're showing this, we're modeling this stuff that, it isn't like you're either JK Rowling or you're, living with a cart on the street somewhere.
But that's the idea that was sold to us, was you're either up here or you're on the streets like begging for money and trying to sell like little finger paintings on the sidewalk, because in history classes that's the idea that's sold to us, is that artists, they have this, the really, really realistic paintings that we see in sculptures that we see in the art museums and everything else. It's either that or nothing. That was what was sold to us. And that is not true. It's just not.
It really isn't. And what I never understood is it was always like, well, you're never going to be talented enough to achieve like the status of, one of the best-selling writers. So you're going to fail. And I'm like,
which is so crazy, because what other career do you start out as a master? None.
Right.
And when you look at the history and you look at like art history and stuff, you look at the master artists, like short of some prodigy children who were just great from the beginning, everybody had crappy paintings while they were growing up, while they were practicing. You don't see artists really like hit their pinnacle until they're super old and adjusted for time period, but until they were really like towards the end, and really then their artwork was not appreciated until they were dead. And that's not the case anymore. And there's no reason for us to perpetuate that myth. Like,
well, and you just have to wonder, like, if a kid comes to you and says, I want to be a business person, do you go, well, you're never going to be the CEO, so you just might as well give it up? Exactly. You're like, exactly.
And now the messaging and everything, you have people who inspire. I always go to Gary Vee, because Gary Vee is like, he's my all-time motivational speaker. But you hear him like, you didn't fail, you just found a way it didn't work. And then you keep going and you pick yourself up and you keep going. And that's a message that we tell every other career. Like, oh, you didn't get this? Just pick yourself up and keep going. Why do we not extend that to artists and to writers, to the creatives? That's so, and then, okay, so another thing that I want to go on to is the idea that whenever we talk about like creative jobs and stuff, we automatically think of like artists. Most people traditionally think of painters and, people who do drawings and things like that, and like big murals and things that you can see, on the daily. There are so many other careers out there that, that involve art on the daily, that involve those skills. And another point too is that with the advancement of technology, the amount of jobs and the different ways that you can use those skills, if you take art and then you combine that with technology, it expands your job opportunities like almost infinitely. Like it's just, it's crazy with what now I wouldn't think of, like, before I wouldn't think of as like, oh, that needs an artist touch. No, now it's just like, oh my gosh, I didn't even think like that would be perfect. Whenever I was growing up, I mean, I'm 40, so when I was growing up in middle school is when they really started pushing doing computer programming and things like that. Like you
Mhm.
had to take a computer programming class. And I remember like I hated it. It was horrible. But now I'm like, I am so thankful that they made us take those things because, you know, with graphic designing and everything, like I didn't have to start from scratch. Like these kids now, like they are starting on like the fifth level, while some
Mhm.
people who have never used computers or technology, they're on the basement level. Like at least some of us, we had a little bit of a leg up, but and I always say like education is free. Education is free.
Mhm.
YouTube is a thing. Use it. You can learn everything from YouTube. There is nothing that you cannot learn. Between that and a library card, you're set. If you want to learn something, get out there and
You can
look it
do
up,
it.
Google it, and find somebody. Find somebody. There are plenty of people to help. And I love our new, well, in some circles, the mantra is, community over competition. I love that. We need more of that. We need more people to step out and say, "Hey, let me show you. Not let me do it all for you and not let me give you my cheat sheet of everything that I
Mhm.
had to go, but let me help you." And you can learn along the way because there's some lessons you just have to learn by doing them, going through it and failing and then picking yourself up and doing it again.
Right.
But back to careers, graphic designers, web
Mhm.
designers, commercial artists, set designers, museum curators,
Mhm.
makeup artists, filmmakers, app designers, cartoonists, animators. Like animation's huge right now. Even from Disney down to, the small things like doing animation for graphics for like marketing
Mhm.
on Facebook and YouTube and things like that for people who don't necessarily know how to do those things for small or micro businesses. Jewelers, urban planners, you know, um, architecture and stuff like that.
Mhm.
That's an art. You need art for that. It's that merge of math and science with art to come up with these like amazing designs, but they don't have to always be huge buildings. They can be small things as well. They can be
Great.
smaller communities. They can be uh, uh, I'm trying to think of what else. Even down to, designing, well, by the way, designing like phone cases and things like
Mhm.
that. There's a lot of manufacturing things where, you got to take that make the things that work, and then we got to make them pretty because we have to make them
Mhm.
aesthetically pleasing so that people actually want them because we always it comes down to what catches our eye. So, there's so many careers now that, a little bit of knowledge on the technology end of it, and you combine that with your natural creative abilities and gifts, and really it's what do you want to do?
I agree.
And
Well, and I think it's the same thing with, writers or musicians. They always say, oh, well, how many musicians really get famous? Well, not a ton of them, but there are a lot of musicians that are studio musicians, or they're playing in a
there's a lot of
symphony, or they're,
producers
yeah,
and
or
a
they're
lot of other,
producers, and you can do
yeah,
your own music now and put it online, and you don't have to have a record label. You can publish your
exactly,
own book now, and you don't have to have
exactly. Oh my gosh.
necessarily an agent and a publisher. Now, granted, there's a lot more marketing to do if you publish it yourself, but you could do
Right.
that.
But you can. And
Yeah.
that's and right now, like with the internet, like before you would have to go and peddle your wares and
Mhm.
stuff like that to people in your community. With the internet, you have the entire world as your
Mhm.
stage. Like what do you want to sell? And all you have to do is capture your niche. And maybe there's like 2 or 3 people in your niche in your local community, but worldwide, how many people are in that niche that you're trying to sell to?
Right.
And now you have the ability to reach them. Like that is huge.
Well, and I think we just need to, I mean, one of the things that I find interesting about garment decoration and garment decorators is, to me, because I have, and I'll freely admit it, I have zero visual artistic talent. I can't draw a straight line. I hate everything about visual art. I'm just not good at it. Now, words I can
Right,
do all day, but visual art, I
right.
suck. So I watch what you guys do and the things you come up with and the things that you make. And I think, this stuff is art. I mean, look at what you
Yeah,
guys are doing. And,
100%.
then you see people selling their stuff for, pennies on the dollar. And I'm just like, you guys
Which
are
is
making works of art. It should be valued like that. I mean, within
absolutely.
reason. You can't go,
Well,
I
right,
get a shirt and it's a Mona Lisa, so I want $5
right,
million for it, or
right,
however much the Mona Lisa would be worth. But
right. No, I agree. And but then there's also it's vice versa. I'm really good with visual things, but like ask me to write a paper or any kind of an article, and it will take me a month. It will take me forever because I struggle with like I don't know if this is right or not. I don't know if this is, if this sounds good, and it takes me forever. But that brings up another great point is that a lot of artists and a lot of creative people, they don't understand, like a lot of times they're just like, oh no, nobody would pay this for this much for this. Nobody would pay me to do this.
mm,
Yes, yes, honey, they will pay you because they don't do any of this. They don't do the words and they don't do the visual. They don't know any of that and they don't want to learn. And then there's some people who maybe they could, but they don't have the time. So
mhm,
your customers are people who like they see the pretty thing and they want the pretty thing, or they
mhm,
want the pretty thing made, but they don't have the tools, the time, or the know-how. And those things, the tools, the time, the know-how, those take time to curate, and they are valuable, valuable gifts that we have and that we have developed. And it's just not something we think that everybody can do that. Like any, Cricut comes out and everybody's like, oh, you're just a mom with a Cricut. Uh, no, Cricut is not super duper easy as far as
mhm.
making quality goods and things like that. Can you make a quality shirt with a Cricut? Absolutely. Absolutely, you can. But you have to know how to do the settings. It takes a lot of time to figure out like what material am I
Mhm.
using, what settings for the pressure and everything. That takes time and material and cost, and not everybody will go that far.
I agree. And the thing that I always keep trying, the message that I keep trying to push is that, you took the time to learn the stuff, you took the time to buy the equipment, and you have a talent that allows you to use it to a level that maybe other people wouldn't. And
Right.
you've invested the time. So for God's sakes,
Yeah. For
please
God's sakes.
get the value that you should be
Right.
getting when you sell
Right.
things. And I think the point you made was really good, that not everybody can do it and not everybody wants to do it. I mean, I
Right.
could paint my house if I wanted to. I could paint the rooms in my house. I'm going to pay somebody to do it because honestly, I don't want
Right.
to,
Right.
you know?
Exactly. And that's something that we equate that like that's like common sense with other industries, but for some reason we just aren't willing to correlate that with our gifts and our talents, and we
Mhm.
have to stop that. There was a really good I think it was on Clubhouse, I don't remember who was talking about it, but I jotted down some notes. Like I've listened to it in the morning and just jot down notes. But a lot of people don't want to, they give their friends and their families discounts on their products,
Mhm.
and they want to discount their products for people because they're like, oh, I don't really know if it's really worth that. And somebody wrote down, they're like, your friends want you to succeed. They don't want you to be poor. Why would your friends want you to be poor? Or why would they not want to like value your talents and your gifts? They want to see you succeed. So charge them full price. Charge them full price.
Mhm.
if anybody, those are the people that you absolutely, because they are your cheerleader section. And if they are not in your cheerleader section, that you need to find new cheerleaders.
You need to find new
ASAP.
friends.
You need to find new friends. You need to find some new cheerleaders. And and that's a something that is across the board for everyone, for
Mhm.
any industry. If your friends and your family are not behind your back and cheering you on, you need to find some new cheerleaders. Find a new
Mhm.
tribe. That's okay, because not
Definitely.
everybody, I always say, not everybody yeehaws together, okay? It's okay. It's not a big deal. Not everybody yeehaws, and you just find the people that do. And those are your people.
Okay, that's
So,
my new saying. Not everybody yeehaws together, except I don't think I can carry it off like you can. But I do want to put one comment up here. Carolyn said it was a total eyes open moment when I came to realize that not everyone is creative, and then charging for it became easy. And that's
yes.
true. I mean, and the other thing that always gets me is that, and I've used this analogy a million times, you don't go to the restaurant where the chef is and say, I'm going to bring my own
Yes.
steak, and then I'd like you to do this and this and this to it because I know how to do it better than you. And you don't go
Right.
to the doctor and tell them you want a discount on your flu shot. You just
Right.
don't. So
You
why
just
do
don't.
people think that artists should share
Well,
their talents and their gifts?
exactly. Because that doctor, that's his talent. That's his gift.
Right.
He chose to spend the extra time in college and everything else to go and get those certifications, to go get all of that knowledge, and then he's going to charge that premium price. You think he's not going to discount that? Why are we? Why are we? If you didn't go to art school, if you didn't, do any kind of training, any kind of trades training or whatever, you still put time in through the
Mm-hmm.
University of YouTube or Hard Knocks, one of the two, to learn your craft, because it is just so super rare that people can just pick something up and just be great at it. Like, it's
Mm-hmm.
just, and that is something that myth has been perpetuated, that you just either you're good at it or you're not. No, that's not true. You have to stop saying that to yourself, and you have to start realizing that, like, hey, if I mess up on something, okay, what did I do wrong? Let me correct it and let's try again. um I just recently picked up embroidery. I got a 4 needle this summer, and I went to I met you the first time at the applique
Mm-hmm.
getaway, and that was my first. I had a little 1 needle embroidery thing that I kind of messed with just at the house for the kids and for little things. And I was like, I need to learn all these skills before I'm going to be offering this out to my customers,
Sure.
because I was outsourcing all of my work for embroidery. I mean, that is a skill. I have spent, we're not going to talk about how much I spent because my husband might be watching. But like, I have spent so much time and money on learning just embroidery. And we're not talking about all the other machines and all the other
Mm-hmm.
things that we've picked up and put down. I mean, that is the value of learning your craft, and you have to recoup that, just like doctors and lawyers and teachers. They
Mm-hmm.
learned their craft, and they expect a certain level of income to come in, because if they didn't expect that income to come in, then they wouldn't have gone to college for that, because it wouldn't be a fair trade. Their time
No.
is not worth the money that they're going to be getting back. So, you know, we have
Yeah.
to we have to realize that our time that we've spent is valuable learning things, whether we did that in college or whether we did that through Hard Knocks, and that we need to recoup that money, and to not only pay for our time, but also for our knowledge.
I agree. And I have another it's a longer comment, but it's a good one here.
Sure.
It's the dreaded Facebook user. So, whoever you are, please tell us who you are.
Yes.
But it says, we have a saying in the music industry: you can play 3 chords in front of 1,000 people, or 1,000 chords in front of 3 people. People who appreciate quality will pay for it, and those are the people you want as customers. I have found that
Yes.
fellow small business owners, especially those in construction, in my area, are the ones who really understand this. And I think that's totally true. Whoops. There we go.
Absolutely. Like, look, I wish I was musical. I can't even tell you how many instruments I have in this household that literally nobody plays. Because I can't. I look at music though. I will go to live music and I will just be awestruck and I will be like, I wish I could play like that. But also I love watching them make the music. Like that it's almost like watching somebody paint. It's just such an amazing experience.
Mhm.
And sometimes with some of our things that we make in garment decoration, or writing or any other things, like somebody else looks at that and they think, wow, that's like art. That's like it's like watching Picasso paint. Like
Mhm.
it's like that for some people. Which yeah, I have some friends that they're like, oh, can you do this? And I'll be like, yeah, brrr, and do it really fast. And they'll be like, oh my God, that's amazing. And I'm like,
Yeah. But they didn't see the
but they didn't
10,000 hours
see.
you put in to be
Right,
able to do
right.
that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, I want to just throw in here the comment came from Heather Miller out of Wamengo. I have no
Okay.
idea, Kansas. Thank you, Heather.
Yeah. Thank
But
you.
I mean, I watch what you guys do, and I have never made a secret of I'm a misfit in this industry because I don't do any of it. I just write about it,
Hey, let
but
me tell you, that is a
it
big thing.
works.
Yeah.
But I watch what you guys do and I have zero desire to do it, but I admire the hell out of it because I know that it would frustrate me to the point where I would have no hair left because I'd be yanking it out. But
But we
to me,
appreciate
it
what
is
you
art.
do because we need somebody to take what they see and interpret that and get that out to the general public because all you're doing is furthering our message and furthering our stage.
That's what I'm
You're
trying to do.
expanding our stage to stand on for people to see. And that's a huge thing. That's a huge thing because some of us are just not gifted like that. And like, you know, I can go in and make your logo and well, no, let's not do your logos because I'm not really great with that. But I can go in there and make a design for a shirt or something and
Mhm.
like, but when it comes to advertising or putting out any kind of like writing about it or descriptions, it's horrible. It is horrible. My friends make fun of me because whenever I go to sell something on Facebook or whatever, I'll just like take the picture. I'll be like, here, it's kind of broken. There's this, and this wrong with it. Take it. I don't care. And so they make fun of me all the time. Like I'll put something up and I'll be like, hey, it's free on the porch. And my friends will go underneath and be like, yeah, it's kind of ugly and da da da. Like they're mocking me for it. And I'm like, but I don't have that gift. I don't.
Mhm.
I can write stories like short stories and things like that. It'll take me longer than most people, but I can write some pretty detailed, awesome things. But writing stuff for a for my Facebook page or any of that stuff, it's just not my talent. It's not my thing.
Mhm. But I think that's a good thing, though. If we all were able to do the
If
same
we all
stuff,
had the same
then
gifts,
what would
how
be the good of
boring,
that? Yeah.
right? How boring would that be?
So the
Like
trick is to
I
just find people who can do the things that you can't,
exactly, but
and
that's
then it all
something
works.
that most people don't realize. Like they look at people who are higher up the ladder, the Elon Musk and everything,
Mhm.
and Jeff Bezos and stuff. Those people are not doing this crap every day. They're not doing all the tasks that it takes to run that big
Oh,
business.
no.
They are sending out all of they're sending out all these little tasks to people underneath them that they trust and they know can get the jobs done. There's
Mhm.
so many people propping those people up. What was it? I think it was Rachel Hollis said like a couple of years ago they were asking her about like how do you get it all done, how do you make it look like super seamless. She's like, with a maid and a chef and somebody to drive my kids, and like there is a whole team behind me.
Mhm.
This isn't just me. I couldn't do this just me. And that's another thing that in this industry or in general, but like I feel like a lot of people they get into these ruts of like, oh, look at their designs or look at their shirts and everything on Instagram and they're just doing so
Mhm.
well and I don't think I can do it. Yes, you can, sister. Yes, or mister. It doesn't
Mhm.
You can do this. You can do this. Those people, they took that picture and you and I both know because we've done it ourselves. They shoved all the clutter out of the way and they found one clean wall And they took the picture there. That's what they did.
Yep.
That is what they are doing, and that is what you have done, and I have done, and everybody does. That room does not look like that on a daily basis at all. Probably not even within an hour. It doesn't look like that again. It didn't look
Oh
like that
yeah.
5 minutes before. It's not going to look like that 5 minutes after. We know what happens behind the scenes on Instagram and on Facebook and all of the social media platforms and all the print and everything else. It's not real. It's fake. It is fake, fake, fake. And we know that, but it's super duper hard for us to break that down in our heads to get that disconnect of like, oh, I need to just make, like, in my head, I need to think like that's fake. That's not how that really is. And I can still do that. We have to break that down because, as a country, as even worldwide, like, it's really, really hard for us to click that off in our brains because our brains see it and it looks really, really nice and pretty, and that's what it hangs on to.
Right.
And we have to break that and logically think to ourselves like, wow, that person did a really great job with that background and that setup. That's what I had to start telling myself, is like, that person did a great job setting that shoot up. Like, good for them. We still need to clap for each other, but we need to understand that that's not reality. That is not, that was a lot of work. There were probably a lot of people helping with that. And if there weren't a lot of people and it was just one person doing it, man, they put in some time and some effort, or they got a system down.
Yeah. And that's really the thing that gets me is you see some of these businesses where they have these perfect shots and it's like they have a team. They have stylists. They have people who do this stuff, and they make enough money that they can do that. If you're just starting out, you're going to have to
it's going to take a minute.
You are.
Right. Yeah. And if there's nothing wrong with bootstrapping. I remember the first couple of trade shows that I went to, some of the vendors were like, oh, you're just bootstrapping it. And I'm like, oh, thanks. Thanks so much. But there's nothing wrong with that at all. How many people are at the top right now or even in the middle that are killing it that bootstrapped it? There's nothing wrong with that. And even if they don't have, even if their social looks amazing and they look like they're on it, but they don't have a team behind them, they spend a ton of research, a ton of time researching how to set that up and how to make that system work for them. I know I struggle with getting systems in place and like, okay, I'm always like, I'm going to go and, I'm going to go set up this station over here, and I'm going to, have this area to hoop my garments, and then I'm going to have my machine next, and then I'm going to have, my finish up section over here. That's what they did. They set that up. They organized that so where it's easy for them. And you can do that too. You just need to find somebody that will help you with those secrets, or you need to be spending time researching that. Whether that's Pinterest or Facebook or, Facebook groups. I mean, there's groups specifically for organization within, our industry.
I know because I was going to say women in garment decoration. That's a group.
Right. That's a group. There's another one specifically for craft room organization. I'm in that one too. Like those are,
there you go.
But those are resources that a quick search.
I'm putting this up here just for the heck of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I have learned so much from Women in Garment Decoration, from Applique Getaway, from all of these people. We have these little tribes and communities, and most of us have several. Let's use them. Let's go and you put the question out there. Let's talk about what we're not good at so that we can connect with each other and find other people that are good at it, that want to help you. Because as much as in our head we think like, oh man, nobody's going to help me with this. Yes, they are. Yes, somebody will help you. I promise you. It may take a minute.
Not everybody, but you have to find your people.
Not everybody, but somebody out there wants to help you, because some of us, like I said, community over competition, but I'm not going to hand it to you. You're not going to just get handed all of the information and everything. And some people like to call that gatekeeping, but I really just think it's some things you just have to learn for yourself.
You have to show
not everybody. you have to show initiative. You have to show that you're really like going after it. And that's with any industry. That's
Mhm.
commonplace in trades and, you know, even in colleges where, you know, maybe they'll put a project out and like if you did extra credit, maybe the professor is gonna show you some preferential treatment and help you out along the way. Like, hey, there's this thing out there. If you know, you go and you spend some extra time, some extra money on a tutor, you're gonna go farther.
Mhm.
That is with every industry, with everything out there. And it's no different here in this industry.
I agree. Well, I want to throw in a couple comments just because they made me laugh here. Carolyn says, behind that Instagram post is a giant ketchup stain on her backside from a 2-year-old. And
Amen.
Cindy says, when I take a photo in my sewing room, you do not see the whole mess. And
You
that's
cannot see the
true.
mess around me right now. Like
Well, and
if you
me either. The part that the camera can see is very
right.
nicely curated. The rest of it is like books and
Yeah.
lights and boxes and all sorts of stuff.
But
But you don't
and
see
with
that, so you don't know.
creatives, like most of us do thrive in like chaotic environments, but it's like controlled chaos. Like that's
Mhm.
what there's a lot of people that like to say like there's a lot of neurodivergent kind of people in creatives, like that kind of goes hand
Mhm.
in hand. But like there are so many people that like they know what's in their piles, they know how to find their stuff. And then there's some of us that are hyper organized and like those are the unicorns. Those are the ones that I'm like, yes, come be friends with me. I
Yes,
have I
come
have
do
a
that.
friend who she has an organization business and I just look at her, I'm like, it's like magic. It's like magic. She can take something and I just look at her, I'm like, I give up. Like there's no way you're gonna organize this or make this clean or and she like she'll post a picture like 2 days later. I'm like, I'm absolutely floored. I have no idea how you did that. Where's your magic wand? And
Mhm.
that is what people think about us and our gifts, whether it's music, whether it's art, or whether it's writing. Everybody, like your customers, that's how they look at you. That's how they look at your wares and the things that you're selling. They look at that as like, wow, that's magic. I can't believe
Mhm.
that you did that. That's amazing.
That's very
So
true.
we're all magical unicorns in our own
Well,
special
I
way.
love this subject, but there's another thing that I did want to talk to you about, and we're
Yeah.
already almost 40 minutes in. So
So
I know it goes really fast. But I do want to talk about, because this is the subject that kind of got us started on you perhaps being on this show, is mental health. And that's something that's near
yes,
and dear to my heart because I have issues with depression and trauma
I
and
do
things
too.
like that.
Right.
So, one of the things that I think has happened that's for the better is that people are talking about this stuff more. When I was
Yes.
in my early 20s, you didn't say, I deal with depression or I deal with, I deal with trauma or I'm dealing with, sexual abuse or whatever it was. You just didn't say
Right.
that. And I think
Right.
we talk about it a lot more now.
I
So,
think we talk about it and that talking it wears away at the stigma of it.
yes.
And that's what's needed. Like before you'd be like, oh, I'm the only one who's like this.
Hmm.
No, you're not. You're not. And we all have really and it's okay to say that you're having a bad day. And that's when I stopped you at the show and I was like, I absolutely love that you put that out there
Hmm.
because that's something that I feel like some people they need permission. They need somebody else to give them permission to like have a bad day. And excuse me. And the reality is that we don't need permission from anybody else. You can write your own hall pass. You can write your own hall pass to have a bad day. It's okay. I in my business, I know I have ups and downs where I'll just be like super, super productive and then I'll just be like, I am burnt out. And if I have to talk to one
Hmm.
more person, I'm gonna lose it. Um, and and I have to write my own hall pass. And so now I like set it up to where it's like, hey, if anything comes in and it's a custom order, it's a 2 week minimum. It's a 2 week minimum turnaround time
Hmm.
because I can't promise you, like maybe I'll start it on a Monday, but maybe I won't finish it up till the next Friday. It'll get done. And if I have new customers, I let them know that from the get-go. Like when I say 2 weeks, I mean 2 weeks. And if you need it sooner, then you're gonna have to pay me extra because I have to juggle all of these things and it's just me. And I have bad days and I have days where I have to take off because my kids need me.
Well, and I
So,
think it's important. I mean, there used to be, and I think it's getting better, but there used to be a real stigma to admitting I'm having I'm dealing with depression right now and I just can't cope with anything more than these three things today.
right,
And so you just never talked about it. You felt bad, but it was kind of a shameful thing. And now
right,
it's like, I still have a little bit of that because of how I was brought up, but I'm
right,
learning to get better about it. But what is really great is I think that now when you say on social media or you say to people who are in your life that, I have this issue, the response you get is much more informed than it
right.
used to be, which I think is so cool.
I love it. And can I
Yeah.
say, like, I really, really believe, like, I think that we got better at it, but I think with TikTok, I think that has been such a huge resource in uncovering like the okayness of being in a depressive state and how to suggestions and tips and things like that on how to get out of it. Um, I know I was in a depressive state through the first of the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
Mainly I homeschooled my children for 5 years, and then literally the week before everything got shut down, I put them back in public school, and then they came back home.
Oh no.
Yeah. So that was really, really, it was rough. It was really rough.
Mm-hmm.
And I started watching TikTok, and there were a couple of people that were on there, and there was this one, and gosh, I don't remember her handle. Anyways, but she went on there and she just totally normalized being depressed. And she was like, it's totally fine. If you're overwhelmed, like, and you need to self-care, you need to get in bed with the covers and just sit, totally fine. But you deserve a clean space. And so she's like, if you have, a bunch of dishes piling up or trash or whatever, she's like, get some Ziploc bags, put the dish in the Ziploc bag and zip it up, and then you can deal with it later. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
where did you learn that little trick? Like, that's awesome. But like, who would have thought about that? I wouldn't have thought about that. But now it's totally okay to openly share these tips and tricks, and like it's totally normal.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is absolutely amazing, and there's a lot more tolerance out there for
Yes.
for people that with mental health, but also with just having a bad day. Like, I think if more people weren't as cross with other people or just in a bad mood, I'm trying not to use my other words, but I think
You
if
can
a
use your
lot
other words. I use them
oh,
all the
can I?
time.
Okay. So, I think a lot more people will be a lot less bitchier if they would
Mm-hmm.
just admit, like, I'm having a really bad day. I'm having a bad day and I need some space. And people will be like, yeah, that's fine. That's fair. I have bad days too. No big deal. But I think we just like we gotta communicate with each other, and we have to communicate with our other people. I love Facebook groups and things like that, especially like this the more where it's more specific to what you
Mm-hmm.
do on the daily, and you build trust and bonds in these groups, and you're able to open up and tell people like, look, I can't get this. I'm about to throw this machine through the window. Like right
Right.
now, I'm going to step away. Like, I need a break. And then you have the outpour of support. Be like, oh yeah, like I have that all the time. Have you tried this, this, and this? And then when you're ready to come back to it, then you read those comments and you're like, okay, I can go and do this. But we have to verbalize more that we're having bad days, or we're having like we're
Mm-hmm.
struggling with this, so that we can all rally around and support. This is women in garment decoration. We as women are programmed to be in villages. We are programmed to be in tribes, to hold each other up and to help each other out. If one person has a bad day or is sick, everybody else steps up to the plate and they divide up that person's work and to get them over the hump. That is how we are biologically programmed to be. We are not supposed to be individuals just trying to tread water, keep our head and our family's heads above water. For what? For what? We have to start supporting each other, and I think we are. I think we're getting much better at it.
Oh, I think so too.
And I think the more that we even kind of close that circle in to where you have like a localized support group, if you don't have somebody who is local to you, if you don't have like your tribe that's local, whether that be friends or family, like find people and go and join some groups, because we all need people that we can go and call and say, who wants to get coffee in their pajamas right now? And we do. Who needs a box of cookies right now and wants to go share them with me, and let's go to the library and go read or just go talk. That's what we need. And we need to build those strong communities. And I think a lot of people, we got it in our heads at some point that we're supposed to be, the strong, independent women. No, you need to be a strong woman in a community of women, and we are all stronger together. And you can see that play out in the Facebook groups, with people who are plugged into communities, and they are regular, commenters, they're regular members. They reach out to other people, and they build those relationships. Those are some strong women, and they get through a lot more. And I think that, in my experience, people are better off mentally when they have those tribes versus trying to go it alone. Who you proving that to? Who cares? What hero cookie are you going to get by towing the rope, on your own? You're not getting a hero cookie for that. Get some help. Get help.
I wanted a hero cookie. I'm really disappointed now. Yeah. But I think that's why one of the things I hit fairly hard, fairly often, is self-care, because women are trained to take care of, I know I was trained to take care of everybody else and put yourself last. And it's like,
absolutely,
you have to look out for yourself, because
you can't pour from an empty cup. You can't pour from an empty cup. You have to make sure that, and self-care, that doesn't have to mean that you go out and get a manicure and a pedicure or something like that. Like, self-care can be like, I need a nap. I need to spend an hour vegging out and watching TV, or just like being just calm, or working out, whatever that self-care is for you. Make your list, put it up so that you can, when you're in a trauma response, it's like your brain is on overload. You need to have that list written out somewhere so that you don't have to think about, and you don't have to rack your brain about, what am I going to do? There's the list. Pick one. Right. Write a list of 10 things that is self-care for you. And when you're in that part, that trauma response, or that where you're just having like an anxiety attack, or it's just everything feels like the world is just crumbling in on you, go pick something from that list.
It's a good idea, because don't leave it until you're in the middle of you're drowning and you need to grab the rope, and then try to figure out what the rope is. Figure out what the rope is ahead of time.
You don't have time to run to the store to go get a flotation device. You need that flotation device where you can see it, so that you know exactly where it is and you can just go grab it. And that is, there's just little things that you can do that will help you out along the way. You just have a little bit of preparation.
I love that a lot. But I think the biggest thing is just, don't feel like there's anything shameful or there's anything bad about admitting that you're having a tough time, that you need help for a day, that you're dealing with trauma of some kind, that you're dealing with depression or anxiety or whatever it is. No, the people who are quality people are not going to judge you for that. And the rest of them are just assholes. So fuck them, basically.
Well, you know what? And assholes are basically like people who are, they're having the same thing. They're just not admitting it. And they're trying to toe the rope on their own. And it's not working for them. So I mean, everybody goes through these things, and the more that we are open about this, the more we are learning how many people are actually affected by this on the daily basis. And we have to communicate with people in an era where there are no restrictions on communication. Like, we can communicate with anybody at any point of the day. We have so many ways to communicate with each other, but we're not communicating what's actually happening with us on the inside, with our feelings and our emotions and everything else. For some reason, like, it's that, and that's the thing, we need to be communicating. Our friends don't want us to be suffering. They don't want us to be drowning. They want us to be thriving. They want us to have that flotation device if we need it. They'll go grab it for you if you need it. But they have to know. They have to know that you're drowning, and they have to know what your flotation device is. Those are things that we need to take inventory, and we need to write those down, and we need to communicate that with other people. And like I said, if you do not have a tribe, find one. Find one today. Don't do anything else until you find that tribe, because you need people to help you along the way. If anybody needs help, message me. I'll be your tribe.
That's awesome.
You may not want to be my tribe, but like,
and y'all know you can talk to me, definitely.
Right. Like, but there are so many people out there that are ready, and they are totally there for you, and will move mountains. And whether that's a phone call, whether that's a couple text messages, or even a Skype, like, there's literally not even limits anymore on when or who and where they are geographically located as to who can actually be there for you. It is a worldwide thing now. I have friends in Germany that I have never met in person, but like, we hang out and listen to music online, and have for the past like 10 years. Like, that's a thing. That's a thing that we have now.
I love it. Well, and I also think, and this is one of the reasons that I talk a lot about the stuff that I've dealt with, is that there's also, if you are somebody who's made it through things and you've learned coping skills, talk about it. Let people know, because there are people going through the exact same crap that you waded through that need to see somebody who made it to the other side of that.
Yeah.
That's so important.
We need to see people succeeding so that we have that measure. There's a lot of research out there that talks about visualization, and I'm a huge advocate of, like, everybody, if you don't have a dream board and you don't have a physical board with some pictures of actual obtainable goals that you want, and whether it's a month, 6 months, 5 years, 10 years, you have to see your dreams. You need to visually see that representation of what you actually want. You can change it. You can change it at any point in time, but you have to have that roadmap, and you got to have some landmarks. Otherwise, where are you going? What are you doing? What are you doing? We have to see those success stories, and we have to be able to put those on our dream board, so that we wake up every morning and we look at that and we're like, that's what I want right there. And if one morning you wake up and you're like, I'm not really into that anymore, like, it's just not driving me, it's just not my thing, take it off, replace it with something else. You could change your mind anytime. But we need to be applauding people who have made it, and putting them up and being like, good for you, I'm so proud of you. And that's what we need to be doing. We don't need to be like, oh, look at her, she did all of this, and be catty. No, that's not serving anybody. It's not helping you, it's not helping them.
Well, and I don't even know that it's necessarily applauding, as it's just, I know when I was in the middle of my year where I had I call it my dark year, because it was a really bad depression. I'm actually surprised that I survived it. But I would have given anything to have had somebody that I could look to and go, okay, they went. But this was, the internet was just barely starting back then, because I'm old. So, I didn't have the resources that I would have had if something happened like that now. Where I could, And that's valuable. So that's why I talk as much as I do about what happened, is that
Absolutely.
I want people to know that you don't have to die from this. You don't have to suffer in silence from this, that you can get through it and you can get better.
Absolutely. I really like this saying, and I don't know if somebody else already said this, but like I always say, don't make lifelong decisions when you're in the middle of like 1%, based off of like 1% of your life's, your total. Like, just because it's a bad week, a bad day, even a bad year, look at that in perspective. Like, now, like, we're all going to live to 100 at least, pretty much right now. Like, that's where we're at, most of us. That's 1 year. That's 1%. 1% of your life. Don't make a permanent decision based off of 1% of your life. Even if it's 5 years, that's 5%. You would never do that with anything else. You would never make that decision based off of a 5%.
Right.
Anything else in your life. Don't play with your life based off of such a temporary circumstance. It's just not worth it.
If you are in the place where you feel like that's the only option you have, take 5 seconds and reach out to someone and tell them that this is what you're thinking, because there are people that can help you. And I'm not going to say it's going to be like 5 minutes after you call these people, but there are people who can help you. And that's,
and you have to stop when you're in that kind of a crisis response mode. You need to stop and call somebody, if nothing else, to stop your brain. And it almost like resets your brain, because now you have to focus on dialing the number, and you have to focus on talking to that person, and it gets you out of that, and it gives you a second to breathe, and it just restarts all of that. And you can talk more calmly. That's why, like with crisis centers and things like that, they say call somebody. You need to call, because if nothing else, it gives you a minute to take a breath before you make a permanent decision.
And it's just important. Just talk about it. Talk with your friends, talk with people online. Just, even if you feel like it's the most shameful thing anybody's ever heard in their life, it's not. Trust me.
And there's plenty of places on the internet where you can go to be completely anonymous and just talk. And that's totally, there's phone numbers, there's places on the internet, and I don't have any of those resources written down just yet, but there are so many resources out there, and there's no reason to end your life over something that is just so transitory. It's not going to be an issue. Is it going to affect your life in 5 years? Is it going to be that tragic that it will completely alter and derail your plans in the next 6 months, 5 years, 10 years? If not, then what are you doing? Yeah,
it's a complicated subject, and I recognize that in the time we have here, we're not going to be, but really what I want to get across is exactly what you just said, which is, take a minute, reach out to somebody, get some help if you need it. You can talk to Lauren, you can talk to me, you can you can come join the Women in Garment Decoration group and talk to us. You can, there are a number of groups online. There's a number of organizations,
absolutely.
I'm trying to remember. I don't remember off the top of my mind, but there's certainly mental health organizations that can help you out. All that stuff is important. And we are now at almost an hour. So we could go for another hour really easily, but if I don't stop this, we will. So what I want to do is put up, if you want to find Lauren, it's down here. You can find her at armadilloblanks.com or armadillocustomtees.com. or Sublimation After Dark on Facebook. Any of those places. I really, really hate to cut this short, but I know from experience that if I don't, it's like, oh, look, we're an half an hour over. Oh, look, it's like an hour later. And, then it just ends up being But this is a conversation we may have to continue another time, because I think especially talking about mental health is something that's important to me.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah, me too.
I
I have I have an associate's degree in clinical psychology and was a
there
drug and
you
alcohol
go.
abuse counselor for years before I had my kids. So absolutely, like, it's an important topic, and it does play into all of the other things that we talked about earlier,
Mhm.
and that we all need to communicate these things more often, so that we can maintain our mental health and our sanity. Because if don't get into the depths of despair, um, over small things that maybe somebody else, if you reached out, they could connect
Right.
those dots for you,
Help
like,
you.
hey man, that's a mock-up, that's not real. I'm like,
And
oh,
don't think that you can't deal with depression or deal with anxiety or deal with any mental illness and not be a
absolutely.
business owner and not be a good partner and not be a good parent. There are people who do it all the time. They just have
I do.
people helping them, and they have sometimes medical therapy, and they sometimes have pills or whatever it is, but they
Absolutely.
get that it can be done. So
It can be.
that's the message I want to end on here, because like I said, we could go for another,
We
like,
could.
and I don't want to do that. So I'm just going to say thank you, Lauren, so much.
Thank you so much for
And
inviting me. I enjoyed it
it
so
was so
much.
fun. And I definitely will have you back. And join me
Yes.
next week. My guest will be Nicole Pape from Rock USA. And I'm going to hit end broadcast now before we start talking again. Thank you, everybody.
Awesome.
Bye.
Bye.